Nintendo really want to have their cake and eat it too here. I feel pretty vindicated with my bad vibes watching the first third of the Switch 2 Direct. We haven't heard. They've increased prices on games and their new system that they're selling. It's this whole kind of funny conversation going down where people don't really understand what they're talking about. A very frustrating development with all this is that Nintendo seems to be learning from NVIDIA, where new generation products, and I've seen this propaganda is working for some reason, and I really hate it, is that NVIDIA has been saying Moore's Law is dead in the run-up to all their hardware releases, and then pricing things to not really replace existing products, just to release mediocre stuff and saying whatever they want just so they can get away with charging as much as they want for their stuff. Hardware manufacturing has not actually gotten more expensive over time. That's just something that's wrong. New hardware releases don't have to cost more than the previous one every time. I keep telling people this, but they just don't believe me. And now I'm hearing people justify the fact that Nintendo Switch had to be more than the original at a minimum. I've been kind of maintaining that I kind of expected it to be $350, especially in like a normal market, because the only overhead for these types of hardware launches is R&D costs, design, spinning up factories, and then after that, the charges on the components are not very much. Then it's just assembly and shipping, which have been thrown into chaos. So I get increasing the pricing to $400 to $450. No. Because like at the presentation, I was pretty surprised by the screen they chose, because that was something I was wondering. 1080p HDR display. We don't know how good the HDR is yet, but 120 hertz for some reason. That's a pretty nice display, and that's probably most of the extra cost compared to the previous Switch. Everything else is like a few dollars more. Like the storage going from eMMC, just 32 gigs or 64 gigs, up to just like actual solid state storage. That's 256 gigabytes, which is like the bare minimum that you can like sell a product with at this point. That's probably like $15 more. The mouse sensors, that's probably an extra $6 to $8. Hardware itself, it's more plastic, so that's gonna cost a little more. And then the boards and stuff, it's probably like a more expensive now, but also, yeah, it's just people parroting dumb shit about computer hardware. It's like, as far as we know, it's still seeming like a Samsung 8 nanometer, which is dirt cheap. It honestly won't cost like any more compared to TSMC 16, which they were using for the original Switch. So that stuff, like even if the die is a bit bigger, it's just not gonna increase the price really. The bad news that we learned though is that Nintendo ended up moving most of their manufacturing over to Vietnam to preempt incoming tariffs on China. But then it was announced just the other day that the tariff rate that went out to Vietnam, because the Trump administration's calculation is goddamn terrible for like a lot of reasons. But it's going to be a 45% tariff on incoming goods from Vietnam, which is the one thing that The thing that people aren't understanding here is it's because Nintendo are increasing the prices on their end, that means it's going to increase the tariff exponentially on our end in the US. So justifying this $450 price is actually bad for you. You can explain it as being rational, as them wanting to maintain their absurd margins from the Switch 1 era, but also they're pushing you to join their 3 times more expensive online tier to get your Switch 1 upgrades for free. And then also throwing game prices up $10 and then up another $10 for physical games. And with Mario Kart being the exception of being an $80 game base price, we haven't gotten complete confirmation that the physical is going to be $90, but it wouldn't surprise me. The thing people gotta keep in mind with all that, though, is that digital goods are not affected by this price increase. So digital games being increased in price is not related to tariffs. At most, you have to think that they just increased it so they could eat the cost of any physical game shipped. But even then, it's just like a big issue for the whole supply chain. Same with why European pricing is also higher. Basically, all Asian regions have prices up because just supply chains and chaos because of the tariff situation. I think people should stay up in arms about the game pricing, though. Make it loud. Make them have to squirm a little by the time the Mario Kart Direct comes around. Because my worst fears were realized as soon as the presentation ended and they didn't reveal the price there. Because they knew that it was going to be a big issue. God, I'm just saying too much of that shit. It is really annoying me that, like, people were like, the Switch OLED was $350. That means the Switch 2 has to be $400. Fuck off. New products come out and are supposed to replace product categories. It's not how this works. Nintendo got away with such a good pricing breakdown that they can eat some of the cost here. Actual retailers are gonna bear the brunt of this tariff issue, though. Assume GameStop's pretty in panic. Sony's probably not that worried, considering they want you to go digital only these days. And Xbox doesn't really care about all this. But people are kind of thinking that this digital cheaper pricing is a gambit for Nintendo to make physical games obsolete, but I don't think that was actually the aim. It's just in people's mind because they introduced the virtual game cart the week before, where you can actually just like lend out people on your like account software. So be like, oh, they're gonna get rid of game carts. I don't think they're gonna do it anytime soon. I really don't. It just doesn't seem like the old guard would really let that happen at this point. Maybe when more people get replaced, you'll end up seeing issues. I guess I can talk about some of the game announcements. I may as well. First was that wheelchair basketball game. Then I'm like, okay, that's not gonna have a player base after a week of it being out. That's unfortunate. I think they knew it sucked, even though it was the first game they revealed. Just to say it's coming out in summer without a release date is so funny. No confidence there. We don't even know if there's going to be a direct in between then and the game's release, so be a whole funny situation there. Their whole demo for how the console works and the features within it, they're charging money for it. Charging like $8 is what people are expecting. That's so funny. You can get it for free, or you can just like pack it in with like their like game dev line of games, like their Labo Studio stuff. That was funny. The whole presentation, it was like I was just kind of in the waiting room because they were trying to upsell you on this camera the whole time. And it's like, I'm not going to do that or buy Nintendo Switch Online. No, thank you. Then they were like, oh yeah, and by the way, we are proprietary SD cards this time. And it's like, fine. They had some more random announcements. Got the enhanced games, which some people thought might not happen at all. I was like, I'm pretty sure they're at least gonna do the Zelda games. It was very funny when they announced it with the Mario Party, though. Like, fair enough, if you're adding DLC to it, may as well talk about it there. And I was always like, you can get these versions of Zelda that's like a stable 30 and running at 4K. People, for some reason, didn't believe me. But anyway, it's a little unclear right now if whenever Nintendo is saying 4K, they actually mean 4K output, like upscaled, because a lot of games use it, and I think upscaling is pretty good these days across the board. Like even FSR1, if you're running it at 4K from like 1440p, it's gonna look okay. But when they're showing off the Metroid Prime version, you get a 1080p 120 mode, 4K 60 mode, like a funny mouse control option. That was neat. I still need to play through the Prime games though, before I get around to that. Yeah, Prime Trilogy got on the Wii U before the eShop fell down, so got that for $20. Aren't I cool? Then I paid fucking $60 because the Smash 4 DLC. I never bought it, and they didn't discount it when the store was being shut down. Fuck you, Nintendo. They were just never gonna sell that game again, so just let people have the content at this point. So yeah, there was a ton of like random third-party announcements, but for this whole direct, it wasn't until the new Hyrule Warriors game was announced that I was like, hell yeah, video games. It's happening. The direct is finally starting up. It was also very surprising. I wasn't expecting this to be where IOI finally was teasing their new James Bond game out in the public for the first time. Would be at the Nintendo Direct, but they did. So that's good news. Probably means the game's coming out next year. That's neat. Other than that, with third-party stuff, I do want to make note of Silksong not being the most surprising date drop. It was actually Professor Layton. So we didn't know when the fuck that game was coming. And that was dropped that was coming in 2025, so that's neat. I'm not a Layton head, by the way. I'm just saying. The only other third-party thing I wanted to talk about was Unreal Engine 5 games, because that's kind of been my biggest concern when it comes to the Switch 2. Because the GPU power, it's gonna be okay-ish enough for now, but for running Unreal Engine 5 games, they're also pretty CPU heavy. And it could be seen pretty easy with the split fiction footage they provided. We don't know if that's exactly how the game's gonna look when it comes out. It probably will though, and it looked rough. So they had to like downscale a lot of shit. And Split Fiction's one of the games where it's one of the better Unreal Engine 5 games in terms of like running efficiently on hardware, so that's kind of a tough sign. It is running though, at least. They also had Star Wars Outlaw footage, but it looked better, but also I don't know if that was actually running on real dev kit. I have a feeling it wasn't, or they were just DLSSing the crap out of it, and I wasn't looking at the footage that closely, so that's neat. For other first party announcements, GameCube NSO, I thought they might not bother, partially just because they don't like giving value to their online services, but now they have this, and I'm like, yeah, paying for the higher tiers seems to make sense here, so They sold it well enough. It's still so funny how they have the graphic and it shows like the 2 or 3 games that you get the DLC for if you have the account, because it's only 2 or 3 games that you get the DLC for. It's like the pack-in value is so funny. And then there's the big announcement for me. It's a beloved game for me and my siblings, which is Kirby Air Ride. One of my favorite games. I don't really like Mario Kart or other kart racers as much as I like these games. And it's also a Sakurai project that's coming out. And it was the only game the whole presentation that moved the needle on me wanting a system this year, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen regardless. Economy's tough. I'm trying to work my way up on this channel first before I can justify paying anything on here. That's why I'm running with whatever hardware I have on hand. So if there's any balance to the market eventually, or Nintendo has to inevitably cut prices, because I think the thing people are missing with this price as well is them pricing it above 400 means it's a direct message to casual and mobile buyers that this isn't for you. This is for people who are hardcore Switch users, hardcore Nintendo fans, and people who are very, very invested in the Switch's ecosystem as their only product, and they want something better. That's the only market they're appealing to right now, so I don't expect Switch 2 to be a Wii U level flop, but it will sell very bad in North America up front. Then they just kind of have to like figure out what they're doing from there. Let's talk about the last 2 games that were talked about, and then we can wrap up. First was Mario Kart World. That was so... The reaction to it was weird, because this is just like an obvious thing, and people are like blown away that it's an open world Mario Kart game that's so unique and novel and crazy. And I'm like, a lot of racing games do this. You haven't played many games in this genre, I guess. Creating an open world map for your like segmented circuit races to be laid across, it's like not that crazy. It is neat, the theming and all that, so that makes it stand out, but the only thing that was like a surprise to me was like the wall jump features. The wall jump features surprised me because it's not like the most casual friendly. Like I imagine that will be something that's a little divisive. But also, what was the other thing? Man, I interrupted myself in my own thoughts. Okay. I'm just gonna move on to Donkey Kong. So finally got what the Odyssey team was working on for the past 8 years. This is crazy. Like your first party dev team did not need all this time, I guess. Because it's not like they worked on Odyssey and then were full staff hands-on for like the Bowser's Fury, the add-on thing. Like obviously it took some of their staff, but it wasn't that big of a project that it needed like multiple years to be worked on. So that's very funny. It took this long. I wasn't that interested in the game until like the recent like little leak about it. I'm not gonna talk about it, but there is suggesting that there is gonna be like a neat little story through line like Odyssey had, which got me engaged because Odyssey's my favorite Mario game. It's kind of, the problem with Donkey Kong is that just like the character appeals kind of weird to me. It's like I don't feel particularly attached to the franchise. It's like with the Switch's Kirby games where I'm like, I'll pick it up eventually, and then I just never get around to it. Like I played Star Allies and Forgotten Kingdom, Forgotten Land, or whatever. But it's like, do I really want to pay full price for it? No. So I guess I'll just look around for an eBay copy or something. If I want to do all that. Yeah, new Donkey Kong seems fine. I guess I'll leave it there. I'll make more videos again, trust me. It's just been a lot of prep work on bigger projects. And I just like haven't gotten around to editing the stuff I already have. So I'll get back to it. And I'll be hacking my Switch as well.